Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Washington Chess Congress. It is the 7th round, and my opponent for this round is Eric Zhao, and he's a talented young player, as you can tell from the title. Eric is not quite a kid, but he's like maybe 12, maybe 13, but there's an interesting story about Eric. I met him when he was like 9 or 10. And I coached him when we were in China. I went with the United States delegation to the World Cadet, and Eric had been coming off of, I believe, like a gold or silver medal performance the year before. So he's really, really strong. And this made this matchup tricky because I know what he plays. In fact, his prep against the Caro Kann with e4 c6 is something that I had suggested to him. And you know, he filled in the gaps with his own coach, and we did even a little bit of work beyond that. And it was a weird matchup. I was like, are we gonna play e4 c6? I mean, I'm gonna have to deviate. I had something in mind, which I haven't been able to play against anybody. And I show up to the board and he plays this, and I'm like, huh. Well, he doesn't play d4, so if you don't play d4, you're not gonna play main line, right? And I thought maybe he was preparing the Dutch. I have played the Dutch before. It's in my database. I played knight f6. I'm like, let's see what he does. I actually thought he was going to play a London, which is why I didn't play d5, because there's more flexibility with knight f6. You can play e6, c5, which is pretty critical. Plays knight f3. I'm like, all right, now he's definitely going to play a London, because there's no way he's going to go c4. If he plays c4, we're just in a main line. I mean, he doesn't play the Catalan. He doesn't play this. Like, there's just too much stuff that we can get into. I just don't expect it to happen. And then you know, he plays e3. I was like, huh, that is very, very solid. It's very difficult to do something crazy against the move e3. You know, so the truth is, like, if I play d5 now, we just have total symmetry. So I'm going to wait a little bit to play d5. And I don't know a whole lot about the system, but I know that, you know, c5, b6 is what people like to do, and that's exactly what I went for. And it's interesting, you know, if he ever plays the move c4, then after this, we are now in a Caro Kann. This is a Caro Kann Panov variation. It was e4, c6, d4, d5, takes, c4, and now I played this. And you'll remember a couple rounds ago against Charles Hua, I played g6, which is what I prefer. So he plays b3, knight c6, bishop b2. I play b6. He does this. I don't actually think this is necessary. The idea is to not let me go knight b4 and attack the bishop, but the truth is, even if I go and attack his bishop when it gets there, he'll just back it up to e2. So, but he played it. I went here, he went here. And I'm like, you know what? I have a feeling I can play bishop to e7 and maybe put my pawn on d6, but let's take the center now. And you know what's interesting about this position? The very sharp individuals who are watching will recognize that this is the exact same, almost the exact same pawn structure as I had against Robbie Kevlishvili. Except the colors are flipped. Because once white plays the move c4, which he promptly does in a moment, we have the same d and c pawns meeting, and we have an opportunity for the transformation of structure to happen, to get the hanging pawns, eb versus dc. It's fascinating. It's actually very, very interesting. The thing is that because the colors are reversed, and I have essentially Robbie's position, or rather, I have my position from the prior round with white, but I'm playing black now. So technically, Eric is up a tempo or two, which is interesting. And I play at queen c7 to not castle just yet, because I figured he was going to go knight e5, right? So if you look at this position, his plans are to play c4 and to plant the knight on e5, supported like this. And then play f4 and maybe create some attack. So I decided to play queen c7. I figured he would play c4. I didn't see anything else, although the computer does try to say like dc5 first. And now I'm going to take on d4. So I played cd4. It's actually the same exact thing I did against Robbie. I took the d pawn with my c pawn, and then I let Robbie put his rook here and take on d5, which was a mistake. And in this game, I was kind of cognizant of this, and I was going to decide where to put my rook and slide my queen out of the way, very much like that last game. Also, the difference is that my bishop is already here. Against Robbie, my bishop had been on this square, so I'm playing against this knight jump to the middle. Now I castled, and now he has a difficult decision. He probably should bring the rooks. If I understand anything about this structure, it's the fact that your rooks are less flexible than your queen, because your queen actually might not want to stand on e2, because that actually takes away some ideas. For example, in the game, Eric actually did play queen e2. Here's the problem. So let's say we get a position like this. Last game, the move d5 was very much a thing, or d4 to open up the position, but then takes, right? And now the queen would be hit. Robbie kept his queen in the middle, which allowed this break. And so I was actually pretty happy to see the move queen e2, which sort of made it clear that he's going to play the move knight to e5. And I had to figure out what to do here. I had two plans. One plan I'm quite familiar with when the colors are reversed. It's to put your bishop right here. And the whole point of this move, as dumb as it looks, is you can even plant your bishop back here and then just maintain the pressure. You basically just get it out of the way, and at a convenient moment, you will take this knight. And the point is that it's kind of tricky for white to take back. If white takes back with the queen, this knight is sort of loose in some variations. If white takes back with the knight, then they've just walked out of the center. So you can take, opening up your bishop, bring your rook and attack the pawn, which they've just weakened. So I know that bishop f4 is an idea. I couldn't bring myself to play this move because it looks pretty idiotic. I mean, it just... The computer says it's fine. I wasn't so convinced. And the other thing is that now knight e5 is not so strong because my bishop's not blocked in. So I can actually just kind of go along with that plan of, etc., etc. That was one plan. My other plan was to play rook e8 because the queen is over there now. Maybe I'm trying to play, e5. For example, like if I can play e5, I'm just completely fine, probably. In fact, I'm probably more than fine. Like if we start trading all the pieces... and I get a rook here, well, that would be a mouse slip, but something like this, IRL mouse slip, like black is just very happy here. All the pieces are active. So he plays knight e5. And so here, I had come up with the plan that when he plays knight e5, I have two ideas. I am going to take with the bishop. He is going to take with his pawn. I'm going to drive my knight back to d7, from where I will attack the center pawn. And when he defends it with his f-pawn, which is his idea, I will rotate my knight to c5, pressure his bishop, get rid of it because it does target my king. And once my knight abandons my king, h7 is going to be pretty weak. Rotate my knight around. Maybe this knight will come around this way or try to jump into the middle of the board. The only thing I need to figure out is, do I take first and then take, or do I take and leave this pawn here? And I decided that it made more sense to throw in the capture on c4 prior to taking on e5. And I was correct because this position is actually very bad. And I didn't like this because opponent doesn't have to do anything. He just doesn't have to do anything. He can apparently just play knight f3. Just let me take it. And structurally, this is terrible for black. Even something like taking on d5 first, knight f3, because this wedge is so strong and the pawns are going, at some point, I'm just going to get blasted on the king side. I don't have enough play and my bishop is still locked in. So I decided to take on c4 first. However, this does give him the option of taking with the knight. This is interesting. I was actually expecting this. And it looks a bit strange to leave this pawn isolated, but now I cannot take on e5. So my original plan doesn't work now because he would simply take, utilizing the knight jump, and he would drop the knight right in here, and I can basically resign. That knight is a major, major, major pain in the ass. I cannot get rid of it without sacrificing or just tying my shoes together and trying to, run on a 5-lane highway. Not recommended, by the way. Just... in case I get sued because one of you tries that. So yeah, I can't do this anymore if he plays knight c4. So if he plays knight c4, my idea was like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I can give him the bishop, actually. I thought I could like do something like this because this pawn is a bit weak. And isolated pawn, the person with the isolated pawn doesn't want to trade all the pieces because now the pawn's just going to be a weakness. What I thought he was going to do is just put his rooks behind the pawn and not really do too much. But you know why I didn't go for this? Because I didn't know what my plan was. Like, yes, I can move the bishop out of the way, for example, but I thought it was a little, I don't know, this just seems kind of unpleasant. Like, his knight is really strong, and I just thought slowly but surely I would just be beaten to a pulp. Of course, computer is always unafraid. It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, he has no attack. Like, why are you so stupid? No, but like, why are you so stupid? The video's not lagging. That's just how I feel whenever I analyze with the computer. So he took back with the b-pawn. And so actually, it's funny. I just got so excited talking about the game that a part of my dried mango fruit that I've been eating popped out of my mouth. Yeah, fun recap. So, we have actually reached the position that was reached 2 times before. One time in 2012 and one time in 2020. And both times, black went wrong here by playing the move rook a8. I'm smart. Those players are also smart. I'm just smarter. I decided to transform the structure. Now, the difference in the transformation is that my bishop stays open, and if I don't get mated, I'm going to be better in the long run because I've split my opponent's structure apart, and this bishop remains out of play. Like, that bishop is not doing anything, right? So I rotate my knight, here comes f4, here comes knight c5. Opponent does the sensible thing. Now you cannot ignore the bishop. You cannot just move along with life, because if you do, I mean, I just take, and where is your attack? I can play even something like knight e7, like, okay, yes, you are creating the threat of an attack, but when I go here, you can play g4, it doesn't matter, I will attack your queen, I will check you, I'm faster, because my bishop cuts your entire king. So you have actually no safety there on the diagonals. You get laser beamed. I mean, just compare the quality of bishops, yeah? I mean, it's like, it's night and day. Literally, black and white. So he plays bishop c2, and I'm like, you know what? It would be nice to plop my knight into the middle of the board, so let's play rook d8. He prevents me by playing knight to f3, and here I was already getting concerned. I was like, can he Greek gift me? And play like knight g5 and queen h5? And I'm actually I'm curious. I haven't really taken a look. Does this work? What does the engine say? Yeah, it thinks it's at least the draw. So what, king here, queen h5. Yeah, I mean, basically what I have to do is abandon my king completely. So the engine is saying, like, just abandon the king. Just let the king, you know, run for his life. And yeah, it's a very, very scary position. So of course, what I did, just very quickly, is I pushed this pawn. Now, you're not supposed to push pawns where you're getting attacked. My king actually has no defense, except pawns. But my opponent doesn't have time. This bishop is now blocked, this bishop is out of the game, and the only real attacking plan is either with the pawns, or by playing queen f2, queen h4, and knight g5. And that's too slow. I just thought that was too slow. Now I thought maybe h4 made some sense, but again, I'm faster down the middle of the board. Also, this knight is gonna rotate, opening up the bishop, and by the way, that trade is really good for me. For example, g4, bishop f3, that is an important piece for the white attack. And now if I just trade pieces, like, you're gonna attack me, right? Yeah, you and what army, as they say in Shrek, right? Like, now what? Okay, you can keep attacking me, but you literally have no threat. You're just pushing a pawn. I can take it, and then I can take on e5, or I can play knight d4. Like, I'm just crushing here because the quality of your bishops together are worth less than one bishop. I don't know. It's like some unsolvable riddle. You know, I was expecting something like that, and then, you know, he plays queen f2, and he just totally misses the fact that I can jump in here with my knight, which had been my idea. It was to jump in at some point with one of the knights. It was to double my rooks, rotate back, probably make that trade. Even though my bishop is better than the knight, my bishop is a very good piece, I would trade it for the knight because I would then render the remaining two pieces basically useless. So I can give up my best piece because my two remaining pieces are so strong. But he plays queen f2 and knight d3. Engine, by the way, just says don't even, like, just go here. He can't guard c4. It's, like, so unafraid. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, just stop his attack. Like, what are you afraid of? Now, admittedly, this is the combination of pieces required to stop his infiltration on the h-file. I have to play h5. As silly as it looks, but I am able to get away with it, as you'll see in the game, even with the move knight d3. Because, for example, like, let's say he goes all in, just gives me the bishop, there's nothing. Even if he rotates in, it's important not to get confused with abstract danger and concrete danger. There is no threat here. He can check me all he wants. I can go here. He can sacrifice. There's nothing. There's nothing. I can let him in as close as possible. He can give me all his pieces. He can't get here because I take his rook, and this bishop does nothing. Queen g5 check, I can run. And what's crazy is I use my knight as a shield. I cross the middle of the board, and what's even worse, the knight covers d1. So everything in the position makes sense. Like, everything makes sense. Sometimes you have to push the pawn in front of your king. That's fine, as long as you're creating sufficient counterplay. It's interesting how this game is played on all three sides. King side, queen side pressure, weaknesses, and straight down the middle on the only open file. So I play knight d3, he takes, and now he just tanks here. He tanks, he spends a ton of time, because he was frustrated. He missed knight d3, he literally just played queen f2 and just forgot about knight d3, which we both thought was the best move. Turns out knight a5 is even stronger. And now the rest of the game is a combination of me moving my knight, making sure I control the d-file, and then at some point winning this pawn and converting an endgame. So he goes here, and it's clear to me his plan is rook d1. What I didn't know is what kind of an endgame I wanted. So for example, if I try to keep if I trade two rooks and keep queens on, this looks good, but white is just in time with this And somehow, like, I don't think I'm even winning anymore. Because this pawn is being given up, but activity is what my opponent gains back. Like, at the end of the day, there's also opposite colored bishops, so I have to be a little careful. So what I thought I was going to do is I was going to trade queens and rooks. I offered him an exchange of queens and rooks. This is what I offered him. Not verbally. You can't do that. Would you like to trade with me? Shut up, stupid. Why are you talking? And here, I thought that after rook c1, white actually still has something. Because I thought even with knight a5 attacking this and going for this and pressure here, like maybe there was some chance he could play c5. I was getting a little bit worried. Engine, of course, always shows the way. But I thought this was his best chance. I thought he has to go for this. Try rook c1, c5. Just push the pawn. Yes, you're going to take some serious structural damage, but you can try to offset that with some tactics. Not like crazy tactics, like something like cb6, because I can actually let his pawn walk over here and just promptly win it. But that's a little tricky to see. That's a little bit tricky to see. So I offered him that exchange, and he didn't take it. And he didn't take it because when things start spiraling, they can sometimes really spiral. And he played rook c1. I mean, I thought he should take on d3. Actually, apparently, I shouldn't even do it this way. I should bring my rook back here. I did see this idea, and do it like this, so that if he takes, I dominate the file without trading queens. It's really interesting. I don't trade queens. I just maintain control of the file. This is one more way to play it. I chose to play it that way, and he went rook c1, and now I have to convert this. So I move my knight to a5, as was the plan. I am now threatening a decisive tactic. See if you can spot it. The idea is to take the knight, and whatever takes back, to play rook d2 with a fork, just a clean fork. So he goes rook c2. I have a lot of different ways to win this. The flashiest is to apparently just take this pawn, which looks uncapturable, and then this, and then fork. Anyway, so just win a pawn, go to this heavy piece endgame. I'm not trying to fat shame the pieces, and just win like this. But I saw this queen a4. I was very hyped for this move. And the second I play it, you know, he also has like a minute on the clock at this point for like the next like 15 moves, because he just got a little bit tilted, spent a lot of time after blundering knight d3. And the second I played queen a4 with the idea of knight c4, among other things, I realized that he has a very annoying little bit of counterplay here, which is this move f5. And if I take with my e-pawn, you know, next thing I know, he goes e6, and actually he's winning. He's winning the game. Because his idea is not just to take back with check, which is a big idea. It's that if I play something like queen e8, he plays queen e5, and all of a sudden I can resign. I mean, how quickly it can change. So he played f5, and I'm sitting there like, you moron, why didn't you see this move? Like, I play queen a4, I hit, you know, the guy's got 40 seconds. Every time he makes a move, he gets 30 more seconds. So he played a move with like 7 seconds on the clock, and he has 37 seconds now. I'm like, dude, play a few moves, the game's gonna be over. Like, man, you can never take your eye off the ball. I play queen a4, he blitzes out f5. I'm like, because that's what happens. A wounded chess player, even a wounded animal, is the most dangerous, right? f5. So here I'm like, you know what? He's going to have no breakthrough. And I have to start thinking like a time trouble person, right? A person who's the game's getting away from them. They're just going to get aggressive with 40 seconds on the clock. So I'm like, you know what? He's going to go gf5, and I see a really cool idea for myself. gf5, knight g5. Try to find the move here for black. Absolutely amazing idea. He wants to play queen h5 with some attack. It's pretty tricky. Find the win for black. Really, really nice stuff. And I saw here that I can play, this didn't happen, but I saw here that I can play queen takes rook. Insane. And then rook d2. And he can't stop rook g2, king h1, and I take his knight. And he's just locked out on the edge of the board. I was like, yo, I'm going to win the game with a queen sack. And this dude saw that. He saw that, so he played rook c1 to protect his rook and try to play knight g5. See, even with low time, kid is sharp, man. Like, he's really, really sharp. Yeah, I was like pretty bummed. I was, damn it, I really wanted to win. So I was like, okay, well, now I have to like focus. Yes, I can take his knight and I can go king h8. But I just played knight b3. And yet he can move his rook. But he did this with the intention to play something like this, which doesn't work because I have rook d1 and then I can take the rook with another check. So every move is a check, which is important. If I don't have rook d1, queen c2, I'm just losing. I cannot prevent this attack. Which is interesting. But also there is, if bishop c1, I was going to go here, king f2, and I like queen c6 or something to try to take on g2. I thought this was pretty clean, so he has to go back, and once he has to go back, I'll do this. We'll trade pieces, and the game will be over. So I took on c1, and he resigned. I actually felt like this was my best game of the tournament. I told him after we analyzed a little bit, and I told him, I was like, man, I felt bad. Like, I decided to play you and play my best game of the tournament. Like I said, we worked together in China, worked together a little bit after that. I remember telling Eric and his mom, like, I was like, dude, pretty soon you're going to be in my section and you're going to be beating me. And, well, he was in my section for sure. Not this time, but who knows? In a year, he'll probably have a higher rating than me. He actually started this tournament 3 out of 3 with 2 wins over GMs. The kid was 3 out of 3. So, you know, we cooled off a little bit since then, but he's going to be a beast in the years to come. Got the win for the 7th round tomorrow, final day. I actually rented the hotel room for the entire day so that I could make 2 recaps and then catch my evening flight. Grind never stops. Use code Congress, 33% off any course. Until tomorrow is when the sale ends. Peace out, y'all. See you for round 8. Get out of here.